Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Seneca. I'm the head of Orrick Sell-Side M&A practice and co-head of our global M&A and private equity group. I've been practicing technology M&A in Silicon Valley for nearly 3 decades and have had the opportunity over that time to help sell hundreds of venture-backed companies to many of the most active serial acquirers and acquisitive unicorns in the technology space, including most recently 2 important deals in the AI space. The first being the $1.3 billion sale of Mosaic ML to Databricks, which was the subject of our recent podcast with Mosaic's founder and CEO, Naveen Rao. And the second being the $650 million sale of Casetext to Thomson Reuters, the closing of which was announced just a few weeks ago. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Casetext co-founders Jake Heller, CEO, and Laura Safdie, Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel. Jake and Laura, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
As we were talking about before, in the aftermath of the chaotic process of selling a company, you guys' immune systems were compromised a bit. You both come down with COVID and other illnesses. So again, appreciate you joining us and sharing some of your story with our audience. It's been great to work with you on the Thomson Reuters transaction, and more broadly for our team at Orrick to have worked with Casetext through your startup and growth phases, as well as being an early customer of Casetext in testing and utilizing your generative AI offering, Counsel. With the recent explosion of product offerings and uses of generative AI, as well as the attendant risks, lawsuits, and regulatory uncertainty surrounding this new technology, our audience is very interested in both your story and your insights on where generative AI is heading, particularly in the legal tech space. Let's start at the beginning of your entrepreneurship path. Obviously, no one informed the two of you that lawyers are per se risk averse. What were each of you doing before founding Casetext, and what inspired you to pursue a startup in legal tech? Jake, let's start with you.
As the risky one, answer first, and I, as the risk averse one, will answer second.
Excellent.
Well, we were actually both practicing law at large law firms before doing Casetext. But long before that, I had grown up here in Silicon Valley. I had been coding since I was a kid, and I loved building things. And I, really kind of kept that passion even as I went to law school and clerkship and practicing law. And I found myself, while a litigation associate, continually building technology products to make my life and my colleagues' life better. And I think that was one hint that I should probably be doing something a little bit different than just practicing law. And what's funny is I had the idea behind, at least the original vision behind Casetext, for a while. I wouldn't stop talking about it. And eventually my wife basically said, listen, dude, either you stop talking about this or you do something about it. And it was actually just that one conversation where I decided, you know what, I think it's time to just give this thing a shot. And what's funny, Mark, is that when I started Casetext, I'm definitely the more risk-taking of the two, between Laura and I. When I started the conversation, I was like, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Leave this job, and maybe I'll just come back and be a lawyer in a couple of years. One option that I didn't realize existed, I thought, it was either going to be a smashing success immediately, or it'd flame out and I go back to practicing law in just a couple of years. Hopefully somebody would take me back. I didn't realize there was this third option where you work really, really, really hard for 10 years, getting slightly better, incrementally better until finally you're a success. And so it surprised me in retrospect, compared to where I thought I would be from the beginning, that it took as long as it did. But as that saying, every Silicon Valley success is a 10-year overnight success, quote unquote overnight success. And I think that's true of us.
Laura, how did Jake cajole you into going down this path?
Oh, I wish I could say that he was trying to cajole me, but I think it just like became obvious to both of us at some point. Like Jake said, I was practicing law. I was a litigator at Simpson Thacher, New York. But both of us had kind of parallel paths. We both went to law school at different schools at the same time. We both clerked. We both worked in federal government, kind of all kind of around the same era. And I also was, so while I was litigating, I experienced firsthand some of the challenges and opportunities inherent in the work that we do as attorneys and the kind of tools that we were used to working with. And I also saw, from the other side, I had a background in government and policy, and I had expected to go back into policy work, kind of the massive implications for access to justice of not having access to kind of baseline legal information and the power of technology to democratize access to the law itself. And so I was just going about my business, just assuming that the status quo is the status quo. But Jake had this really compelling vision for how you can leverage technology and, advanced data science and machine learning at that time to create scalable ways of interacting with legal information. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. You should definitely go do that. I'm going to be over here in my law firm job, and I'm just going to keep my head down and keep doing what I'm doing. But after a while, I just thought it was so interesting, and I kept engaging with him and following him through the seed fundraising stage and giving both solicited and unsolicited advice. And I think eventually we both were like, okay, same deal. Like, either I need to stop obsessing over this thing Jake is doing, or I should quit my job and do it. And so that's what I did. And same with Jake. I figured, okay, well, this is the time in my life to take this kind of risk, and probably in a couple of years I'll be back at the firm, and it'll be fine. It'll be a fun story we tell our grandkids one day. But ultimately we both kind of fell in love with this opportunity and fell in love with the team we were building and really care, and we just kind of saw it through, I suppose.
How long, out of curiosity, was that gestation process where you were both kind of obsessing over it? Was that a few years? Was it a few? I mean, what was the time period for thinking about it, agonizing whether you could do it, and then actually jumping in?
For me, it was, it's funny, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was pretty quick. I think it was something like, I had the idea sometime in law school, practiced for a few years, and then realized, as I thought more and more about this, I just got to do it. It's funny, I wasn't really agonizing about it per se, about whether to make the decision or not. As soon as I, had that conversation with my wife to make the decision, I think I approached the firm. Actually, the full story here is I approached the firm, and the first proposal with Ropes and Gray was that I just build it inside Ropes and Gray. Like, I'll be an associate, but I also just do this thing as well. And they were having it anyway. They're like, "Are you not billing enough hours, kid? Do you need to get you more work?" The idea that you want to kind of build a tech product. He was like, "No, I just like working on this stuff. I'll do it in my spare time." And so they were thrilled with that idea, I think, of me building it within the law firm context. And so it reached a decision point. Do I, build it or continue on as a kind of traditional legal practice? And I decided to build it.
You guys have alluded a little bit to democratization of legal services. Talk a little bit more about what your vision was for Casetext from the outset, and then over that 10-year period, which, just because I know the path and we've had some of these conversations independent of this podcast, that was quite the surprise in terms of that length of perseverance and the ups and downs to get to the recent transaction that kind of culminated that 10-year period. How did the vision start out, and how did that evolve over that period of time?
From day one, the vision was always around how do we use the best cutting edge technology to provide, attorneys the capability of providing better, more efficient, and more affordable services to their clients. But what that cutting edge technology was and the kinds of things we intended to do for our clients, who are attorneys, really shifted over time. So in the very beginning, the vision was really focused around how do we enable attorneys to get access to information, typically then only done by the big publishing companies like Westlaw, LexisNexis, and Fastcase is also making a really big kind of inroads there. But how do we scale access to information and make it more affordable, more efficient, et cetera. And at the time, the cutting edge technology that everybody was talking about was crowdsourcing. This is the era of Facebook just about to go public. Businesses obviously you know well, right? Like Instagram, but also Stack Overflow and GitHub and Wikipedia itself were all kind of inspirations for us. And before artificial intelligence and natural language processing was any good, we tried to essentially crowdsource a lot of that information to build out better databases, deeper, richer databases, done more affordably and scalably than anybody else. And that went in, I'd say, fits and starts, but ultimately did not work. Our real breakthroughs happened when the state-of-the-art natural language processing and artificial intelligence technologies matured more and more and more over time, so that we would not have to rely on crowdsourcing elements to create a great experience for our customers. And it's funny to reflect on it in retrospect. It's unclear to me still to this day whether a GitHub or Stack Overflow or similar resource for lawyers was just never going to work for lawyers the way it did for, say, engineers, or whether we just didn't execute on it perfectly, or some combination of the two. But again, in retrospect, it almost didn't matter because, as we were kind of unable to get the kind of scale you need to crowdsource legal information, we're able to use natural language processing and artificial intelligence to fill in for a lot of those gaps and to create really great experiences for our customers.
I mean, the one caveat I'll say to that, though, is that 100% true on our original approach, which was to get unique content, which we had some very, very thoughtful and substantive content, but the scale you would need to annotate the law with unique content was just massive. That said, lawyers do, in fact, write a lot already, and there is a lot of really substantive, valuable information out there. And I think one of the early innovations that Casetext brought was to connect that existing content to the legal sources themselves. So I think our big breakthrough before, to Jake's good point about the developments in ML that really transformed our ability to scale access to this kind of secondary information. At the beginning, it was simply taking the information that was out there and using intelligent ways of annotating the law with it. So that meant that when you were engaging with legal content, you were also seeing what leaders at Orrick thought about the latest case that was on, the topic of a recent M&A, for instance. And so that I thought was a breakthrough, but that kind of doesn't really change the ultimate point, which is just we kind of stayed in the game quite a long time and learned lessons and pivoted until we kind of found the path that got our customers what they needed out of this tool.
That segues into kind of another question, taking a step back from LegalTech and what you were trying to solve for. Just the experience of, building a company, modifying, as you described, what the focus is and what the market opportunity was over a 10-year period, and all the ups and downs and uncertainty about the path that you embarked on, and whether there was going to be a, quote unquote, a payday, and all the sweat equity that you put into it. What lessons have you learned through that process that would be instructive to other entrepreneurs, other folks in your position that are either contemplating embarking on a startup that, as you guys have reflected in the aftermath of the sale transaction, what would you share with that community?
So Mark, the first thing is I would phrase the kind of history here a little bit different, actually. And the way I would think about it is not that we kind of kept on modifying our vision or the mission. Those actually stayed relatively stable throughout the entire 10 years. And what we really pivoted around was how, what technologies we're going to use, what information we want to bring in, et cetera. But I think maybe one piece of advice for anybody embarking on this is choose a mission you really care about. In our case, it's about improving the legal profession so that that lawyers can in turn better serve their clients through more affordable, more efficient and higher quality representation, and using technology to help there. That's something that we both, and I think everybody who came with us on this journey, really cared about. And so even when one particular implementation of it wasn't working out super well, that didn't really matter, right? And frankly, even the payday wasn't something that we had all really thought about that frequently, if really at all. It's just about how do we help our customers achieve what they want to achieve, and how, we got really excited about when we saw our customers succeed. That's what got us really excited when we saw making kind of steps towards that mission. So that's one piece of advice, is to pick something you really care about, because it might take 10 years. It might take longer than 10 years, you know. There's a reason why there's a saying around the quote unquote 10-year overnight success. And I think part of that is building these kinds of companies turns out to be very hard. Having thousands of conversations with your customers until you really home in on the value proposition. There may be underlying technology that you need to develop, or the state-of-the-art technology may just not be there for you to fully realize your vision. All those things may be true. And you have to stick with it for sometimes, and especially in our case, a very long time, and do it happily, right? Like being really excited to show up to work every single day for 10 years, even while things aren't working. And if you're not like that, then it's not going to work out, potentially, right? Unless you have a quick success. And so I think that's maybe one piece of advice reflecting on these 10 years is you have to have a certain stick-to-itiveness, and you get that from working on something you really care about and working with people you really care about. And that makes, the quote unquote lack of an immediate payday, or whether there will be a payday, much, much easier. A few other quick pieces of advice. Again, like the mission and vision staying constant throughout. Other things that are just universal truths, like putting the customer first and building up an incredibly good support and success ecosystem for your clients. Even if you're going to pivot the product or change what the product does over time, if you have customers who fall in love with working with you, they're going to be customers for life. And they're going to be the kinds of customers who are going to give you feedback on your next new idea or the next new technology that's going to make or break whether it's an actually successful implementation of that technology. And I think those relationships ended up becoming the most important thing that we did over the course of those 10 years. And brand really matters. I think even before Counsel, Casetext became associated with innovation, with great customer success and service, with not falling for kind of BS trends and being very straight up and honest with our clients, even frankly when it didn't help us to do so. When we're like, we could have easily bought into earlier hype waves around things like AI, chose not to because we didn't see that the technology is quite there yet. And I think that gained us a lot of credibility and put the brand in a good position so that when we were finally ready to seize our moment, we weren't burdened by any kind of negative brand impression. And to the contrary, I think we were really bolstered by already having 10,000 clients, including 60 of the largest law firms in the country, and already having a very good reputation and brand for being good people to work with.
Yeah, I second everything, and I'll reinforce this concept of like working toward a payday, just like is not in our DNA and wasn't how we thought about the business at all. And it wasn't the people we attracted to the business at all. Our approach was, we are buying into a vision and a mission that we personally care a lot about. And we want to build value, of course, but we're there to deliver value for our customers, for the legal community. We're there to do work that we care about. So obviously, we have investors and we want to deliver for them as well. I'm not saying this was just a passion project, but at the same time, we always used to joke like there were much easier ways for Jake and I to make money. This was about a lot more than that. We wanted to build something sustaining. We wanted to build something of value. We wanted to show that you can do it differently within the legal community and provide lawyers with tools that help them. I mean, a lawyer's job, I don't have to tell you, is just incredibly impactful for individuals, for companies. It really matters. And so it matters that they have access to the best tools that help them do the best work. We really care about that. And so in terms of advice for folks starting out, I would not get into this planning as if you're flipping a house, right? Like how do you make a quick exit, right? You want to engage with a mission that you care about, that you think is worthwhile, that's worth the long hours and the long nights and the weekends and the time away from family, because you're going to have all of that if you're going to build something. Building something new is just hard. And you need to do it for the right reasons. And so I think that's something that we've always kind of had and that has served us well. We never thought of any kind of merger or acquisition as the end of a story. It's just a different chapter in a story. So for us, it's not like, we worked really hard for 10 years and suddenly this is done. Quite the contrary. We, as you know, had a lot of opportunities to take a different path, to raise more funding and to go it alone. And we made the decision when we had this opportunity that, again, serving kind of our really consistent mission and vision for the company, it would be better served backed by Thomson Reuters content, their experience, their team. And so for us, this is just a different chapter, but very much focused on the same ultimate goals and ambitions, which is to deliver the best technology to the legal space, which for us is one of the most, you can't imagine an industry that more deserves to be served with leading technology to help us do our jobs for our clients better. So not to sound like too idealistic about it, but that's genuinely what we believe. In terms of kind of an operational kind of piece of advice for folks starting out, I will say just be radically focused on getting top people around you. For us, I think hiring excellent leadership around us to lead every function or organization, and you're not going to get it right every time, or the first time every time, but you better get it right eventually. Bring on people who care deeply about your mission, bring on people who are incredibly smart and who have a lot of grit, because again, doing something new is quite hard. And so you don't really get to sail your way into this. You have to have a team that works well together. We have this value at the company: honest feedback hurts. What that really means is a belief that we have to be honest with each other. We have to be direct with each other, because we're never going to do these hard things well together if we aren't. And so for us, it was surround yourself with great people who are mission aligned, and do your damnedest to build something new with them. And so that's kind of.
Yeah, the consistent theme in having these types of conversations with founders and working through the building process and the sale process is that passion. And Jake, what impressed me on what you said, it's not just having the passion yourself, but it's selling that passion and portraying that passion in building both your internal team and your client network, and getting the feedback loop that you described that allows you to pivot and adjust and stay true to the thesis for why you engaged in the process in the first place, but be able to shift and make adjustments along the way that allow you to implement and execute on that purpose. So that's very interesting. I didn't mean to be overly materialistic in referring to a payday, but I do know what it takes to go through this process, how hard it is to build a company, all the sacrifices that you alluded to, Laura, and what you said. And I tell my kids, just like you hear in big sports, you got to love the process. Life isn't about, or success isn't about the destination. You reach the destination as a result of, loving the process. What was it about Thomson Reuters and combining with them, and what you could do as a combined company and taking co-counsel and AI and combining it with one of the leading providers of legal research and content? What is it that you're most excited about in the next chapter of being combined?
So I want to jump into that, but I actually want to build off something you just said, which I totally agree. Two things I totally agree with. They're also great pieces of advice for folks looking to start companies or rebuilding companies. The first is, look, I mean, Casetext exit for $650 million. We were never that much above 100 people at the company. So you don't need to hire the whole world, right? Even if you're growing to the thousands of employees, you don't need to make yourself attractive also to every client, right? We had 10,000, 15,000 or so clients out of 1.5 million lawyers, right? So what you do need to find are the people and clients who are passionate about what you're passionate about. And I think a mistake that a lot of people make is they want to make themselves attractive to everyone, when actually you only need to find the 100 or 200 or 300 people who are just as crazy as you are about the thing you care about. And about the process, I also just want to just build on that. I reflect on this a lot, because when you watch a sports player play a game, for example, you're watching the conclusion of that process. You're seeing them, they make it look easy. and they make it look really fun and simple, and they just, just catch the football and run with it, and they're avoiding all the, what you don't see when you're watching a game is the 100,000, times they've shot a free throw, or the 100 times they've run a drill that simulated that exact situation. And I think building a company is very similar. A lot of, including myself, when I was a young entrepreneur, I'd listen to podcasts like this and watch people on a stage, or watch them sell their company, and they made it look really easy. And what you didn't see is the sometimes decade worth of work that it got them to be where they were as an entrepreneur, as a person. And you didn't see the decade of work that they went into building their company, mistakes, lessons learned, tough conversations with clients, and you let them down because your technology didn't live up to X, Y, or Z expectation, rebuilding it from the ground up, letting go of a great executive because they just weren't a fit for your culture, and having to go rehire that person or that role 2 or 3 times, right? All of those things are things you just don't see. And that's the real work. And you have to love all of that too, to your point. So I just wanted to say you're totally right about that reflection. In terms of Thomson Reuters, Laura hit the nail on the head on a lot of these things. The thesis here is you take our technology, and I think we were and still are some of the best in the world at using large language models like GPT-4 to create compelling products in legal and for professionals. So you take our technology expertise and the current state of our technology, CoCounsel, and you marry it with a very respectable, for its worth, technology operation within Thomson Reuters as it stands, plus amazing content, plus reach into essentially every legal customer, plus lessons learned serving those clients for over 100 years, right? In like one form or another. And you have a really, really good platform for us to continue our mission and vision with. And that was so compelling about this exit opportunity. And all exits are the same. Some of them are clearly just to buy the product and kind of warehouse the product and get the team, some members of the team. Some acquisitions are about maybe a soft landing for the founders and nothing else. I mean, it's hard to tell actually from the outside, just from the headlines, what kind of acquisitions they are, right? And I'm sure, Mark, you've seen them all. In our case, this was one of those things where, in some ways, the way I evaluate this is an alternative to fundraising. Right? We could have fundraised. We could have raised 50 million or more from a subset of fantastic investors. And in terms of accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish, the path here with Thomson Reuters wasn't just great for shareholders, it was also great for our customers, and also great for our employees, and also great for our mission and vision. And that made it a much more compelling kind of decision here. The fact that they're bringing on all of our employees, the fact that we are continuing the product in substantially the same form, just empowered by their content and their team and their wisdom. The fact that we're just a few weeks into integration, but it's already very obvious that we have something to bring to the table. Of course, that's why they bought us, but that they're going to be bringing so much to the ability to accomplish really, really big goals together. I think has been a really validating, really exciting to see.
Building on that also, in terms of the mission, I mean, part of what we're focused on is just creating the very best AI legal assistant, and that will be dramatically empowered and facilitated by their team, their expertise, their content, as well as ours. But there's also things that as a small company, we just did not have the bandwidth to do, that are suddenly just like unlocked in a way that is incredibly exciting for Jake and I and the rest of the team. So for instance, one thing that we had focused on early was, among the clients that we work closely with were legal aid organizations, because we believe that one subset of the legal community that will be dramatically well served by this advent in AI that can handle substantive legal tasks is legal aid, which is a critical function in society, which is always underfunded and under-resourced, and is limited by those limitations. And the ability to leverage AI directly to serve more people. So for instance, we would work with folks that are representing employees directly who don't have access to larger law firms, or the legal aid organization, the California Innocence Project, that works with folks who are imprisoned that claim that they were wrongfully imprisoned. there is just so much opportunity, and we could just barely scratch the surface, despite the fact that it was something that was very important to us from a mission perspective. And the great thing about Thomson Reuters, we kind of flagged this work early and we said, this is really important to us. And they were all about it. And they're like, this is important to us too. And we love the concept of leaning into this. And they have their tr.org like foundation where they're also investing in pro bono and legal aid work. And so the idea that this isn't the end of that kind of work, but really maybe just the beginning, that we can do more of it better and better resourced, was something that was also super compelling to us. So there's obviously like the core product vision, which is of course our main focus, but for those of us who are involved in Casetext, because we really think that it's going to change the world and change the way that lawyers practice law, it's just like the sky seems to be the limit. And so we're just very excited about the opportunities in that regard as well.
I'm curious, just given your involvement not only in developing your company, but I think you're both very thoughtful in terms of the broader generative AI landscape. I've been told that, as a lawyer, I'll soon be replaced by a chatbot that is more intelligent,
Not true,
better,
Mark. Not true at
faster, cheaper. And I'm also impressed just in our own clientele and more broadly, the fact that legal tech is an industry unto itself. It's a subset of areas where AI is coming into play. What are your thoughts just on the broad legal tech industry and how transformative an effect technology will or could have on the legal industry?
So, big picture, what I think you're seeing with these new models is, for the first time ever, a computer that can read and understand and reason and write all at a very, very high level, like a postgraduate level.
And I told you I can only do like 2 or 3 of those 5 tasks, so I'm in trouble.
I wouldn't worry about yourself, for reasons I'll get to in a second. And what do you do when all of a sudden you have computers which you can parallelize, where you can have like 1,000 processes running at the same time without an issue, right? That works at superhuman speeds, but are able to do all these things at a high level of reliability and accuracy. The answer that we believe is the right answer is you start to find ways to delegate some of these tasks to an AI in the way that you might delegate to, say, a junior paralegal or a legal assistant, to take it off the plate of the attorney. There's a lot of rote work that we as attorneys do, even less rote work, less than rote, but still difficult work that we do as attorneys, whether it be like going from that initial term sheet to a first draft of a contract, for example, like that first draft, reviewing documents, reviewing contracts for compliance with the company's policy, all that stuff we think now as a first cut can be delegated to an AI. And that's where I think the real opportunity is. And bigger picture, I think the big opportunity across basically every profession is that, like everyone has a smartphone and everyone uses email, I believe that there's going to be an AI assistant helping every single professional, and whether it be in law, medicine, finance, accounting, enabling them to do the more strategic, more important, more customer-facing parts of their job that aren't the kind of rote, repetitive, scaled tasks like reviewing millions of documents or doing legal research or reviewing dozens of contracts. What we've seen with technology trends in the past is that though there's a lot of fear of job replacement and so on, it's never been the case. There's more technology than ever in law firms and more lawyers than ever, making more money than ever. And I think that trend continues. I think that trend continues, broadly speaking, the economy. But the work that you do shifts, and it becomes more strategic, more important, more fulfilling, frankly, than some of the rote work that today computers can take off the plate.
And building on that, I think the people that will be successful in this new world are the people that learn how to leverage this technology, the people who become very, very good at delegating. And that's a skill that not all lawyers inherently have, but it can be learned. So I think to some lawyers who are looking at AI and feeling intimidated, like, this is highly technical, I'm not a technical person, that's why I went to law school, I don't do math, like, that's all fine. But you do delegate to an assistant or to a paralegal or to a junior associate. And the people who do that really well are the people who can be very specific about what they need and what they want in terms of an output, and who can give guidance and who can iterate. And that's really the same type of skill set that you'll need in a world of having an AI assistant. And those lawyers who push that out and say, that's not for me, but that's wizzy woozy crazy stuff or whatever, those are the ones who I don't think will be as well positioned in this new world, where the expectation is going to be that you do more with less. The expectation is that you're going to be fast and efficient and always top of your game. And so that's something that I think the folks who are paying attention recognize, and many of our clients are engaging with those kinds of substantive questions now.
Yeah, and for my part, my observation is that AI has gotten to the point where it's coming, it's not going away. It's not something you can just defer and continue in the status quo. And like you say, I think that, in my world of M&A deal making, which is very different from the litigation side of the house or public interest type of opportunities to improve access to law, it's just eliminating the efficiencies. And as Jake alluded to, it's if you approach it with excitement and opportunity as opposed to fear and uncertainty, it's an opportunity to move up the fun curve, so to speak, in terms of the value that you can add, the value in the eyes of clients and others in terms of the expertise, and removing the project management and rote aspect that is inherent in all kinds of legal work. So I think it's coming, and we as lawyers who are resistant to change, those that can pivot and embrace it and use it and leverage it, are going to be, the lawyers and the firms that have the most success. And so the challenge is before us at Orrick and otherwise, and it's been a thrill, not only with you guys, but other of our clients in the AI space, to get up to speed and learn more about this, and see if we can collectively benefit from the technology changes that isn't legal centric at all. It's going to affect every industry in the world and globally. Any parting shots, last observations that you'd like to share before we conclude? You guys, I didn't even have to answer all my questions because you just started answering them with your
if you leave us, we'll just keep talking forever, basically.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one parting thought here. I mean, Mark, we were obviously very lucky to work with you and the Orrick team on this transaction. And like you said, we've been working with you all for the last decade. And tying it back to the themes around AI and its role in the professions, the parts of those services that we really valued, that we think is worth every penny and more, are the times where you could sit us down and did sit us down and say, here's what they're proposing, here's what we propose, here's why, here's how we think it's going to go. Here's why this will potentially work out poorly for you, to think through it all the way, and why you shouldn't go down this path or what have you. That kind of information is based on experience. It's based on the fact that you've worked on these kinds of deals and seen enough of these to understand the implications. It's based on intuition. It's based on being a person who is well read and understands this area incredibly well. All of those things are incredibly valuable when you're going through a high stakes moment, like an M&A transaction, right? And also like litigation and everything else. These are not things that GPT-4 or 5 or 6 or 7 are going to do. I'm not concerned about that, right? And so it turns out that it's not just more fun for lawyers to be working on the more strategic and important kind of work, whether it be in deal making or litigation. It's also going to be more valuable for clients to just engage on that level, and know you're dealing with a person like that. And I think kind of thinking about the future a little bit, I think the really tough part that a lot of law firms have to think about starting now is, given that's what clients value, and given that AI is going to take a lot of that rote work and start doing that, on behalf of clients, you probably buy law firms using that technology to support their clients, but still be increasing the technological process. What do we do with this next generation of lawyers? And I think that the answer is, a lot of lawyers are today kind of quote unquote trained on doing rote, repetitive tasks, basically, right? Especially, I mean, I know litigation because I practiced it, document review, legal research, right? These are tasks that might take days, weeks, or months sometimes, and are kind of rote, and they don't have to necessarily prepare you to be a strategic partner for your clients. And I wonder a bit about the model within law firms, the model within legal education, and this is probably going to be true for professionals, generally speaking. How do you get the next generation to not be ready for a job environment where you just have to do rote, repetitive tasks, because the AI will do that for you now. But how do you turn the next generation into Mark Senecas, right? That I think is the real interesting challenge to the law firm model and the legal education model starting now.
I would just say, and I think that's an excellent point, Jake. One thing we've had the privilege of seeing is when we work with some of the leading firms who are thinking about AI, they're grappling head on with some of these really critical, sometimes existential questions about what does AI mean for the future of the practice of law? What does it mean to be a lawyer? What are tasks that are inherent to lawyers? And what are tasks that we thought were inherent to lawyers that can now be done by machines? And what does that mean for our business? How do we build a sustainable firm? What does it mean for the billable hour? These are all tough questions. They're important questions. They're ones for which each firm might have different answers. But I would say that where I've been really encouraged is seeing firms who are grappling with them kind of head on. And so I know that this is probably going to be viewed as much by entrepreneurs as by firms, but just to the lawyers watching, I think and really across the professions, to Jake's point, grappling with these questions now and asking them and having strategic conversations about them right now, seeing around the corner, is the right timeline. Because if you wait to have them until you're forced to have them, it might be too late to adjust your current approach. So we've seen a lot of folks in the market having those conversations now, and I expect to see more over the coming year.
Well, I hope both of you will remain friends of the firm, because we are in the midst of grappling with those issues. It's been ongoing for a number of years, both in representing clients on AI issues and litigation and other things that are falling out of the space, but also in transforming the way that we practice, because we pride ourselves on being innovative as a firm and want to be on the leading edge of adopting and embracing these types of technologies. And your insights and your guidance, I think, will be a valuable resource going forward, particularly as you embark on solving issues and continuing your vision on the Thomson Reuters platform. It's been a thrill to work with you on the deal. As you guys well know, it's not the CEO and the COO or myself as a lead partner on the deal. It's all the people that are helping us. And there were a lot of folks that went into this relationship, not only on the Thomson Reuters deal, but also in the relationship for the last decade. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this podcast. We're seeking to provide interesting content to entrepreneurs and venture capitals and the technology industry in Silicon Valley, and the audience should stay tuned for more content as the months and years unfold. Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for having us.